Well, hello. I'm just on a minute early here just to make sure everything's working and hoping that people can hear me. And so I'll just give it a minute for people to join in. We're not officially starting till 1 o'clock and probably got about 30 seconds to go. So, anyway, I hope everybody had a good Christmas, good holiday season, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to you today. So, okay, it is 1 o'clock. So now we are officially starting. Hi, my name is Phil Naylor. I am a therapist and I do have tea. As you can see, this actually says tea. So you know there's tea in this cup, as far as you know. But yes, it is tea. Um, Welcome to my gathering. And if you could just say hello in the comments section. Just let me know that you're hearing me. That would be great because I can't tell if you're hearing me or not. So this is my first time doing such a thing. So your assistance with me to let me know that you're engaged in hearing would be great. So somebody please just say, yeah, I hear you. I can hear what you're saying. That would be great. Okay, great. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for joining. So you can hear me okay? Okay, and Gail, hello. So, and there may be other people as we come just joining in. Thank you for joining me in this kind of inaugural session. And first of all, Happy New Year to you all. And I hope you had a good holiday. And thanks for joining me. I'm starting off on a new venture here, and that is just to engage with people more. And okay, good. So this is, I guess, part of my new year kind of intention. I don't like to say resolution. It's not really a resolution. It's about setting intentions and doing new things, which is kind of the topic, I guess, of this talk. I'm really starting on this sort of venture where I'm just talking to people and just hoping that they join in to provide a little bit of education and form around mental health, mental wellness, and understanding ourselves. Because being in this business for a long time, I've been in private practice for the last 5 years. Well, actually, 7 or 8 years if you consider when I was part-time. Prior to that, I was working in the mental health field directly in the mental health field for 15 years, doing a lot of different roles, everything from frontline crisis work to therapy work to supervisor work to clinical supervisor work to managing services. And then I have a history of human services, working in different kinds of settings and facilities, mental health related, for even further back than that, about past 10 years, even prior to that. So I've seen a lot of things, and I certainly know the mental health system. I kind of am pretty up on what's happening out there in the field. And one of the things I've noticed is that there's not a good education provided about our mental, how we're structured mentally, how we work mentally, how to maintain ourselves, our mental wellness. And we know much more about our physical bodies and health. I guess that wasn't that long ago. I guess we didn't know that much about that either, but we know a lot about exercise and nutrition, and we know the things that we need to do to maintain our health, the various systems. Like, you can go on the net, get all kinds of information. There's Dr. Oz shows and all kinds of things that are on there that talk about keeping our physical selves well. And we all have a sense of diet and exercise being important, but nobody ever talks about mental health and how do we keep mentally well. And so we're a lot, kind of a mystery to ourselves, and there's a lot of information out there, but it's all kind of presented in bits and pieces and different theories and all those sorts of things. And I've kind of seen things from all angles in the mental health system, from the medical point of view to the kind of the whole range of points of views that there are to have. And I've also studied a lot of stuff, even just in the kind of personal development field, as well as sort of traditional mental health. Now, I'm kind of non-traditional in mental health in, well, am I traditional or non-traditional? Because my main focus is the use of hypnosis. I use hypnosis a lot in my practice, and not a lot of people use that in their practice. And it's a mystery to me as to why that is, because I think that hypnosis is probably one of the most important tools that a therapist can use. And it has a very long history. Well, hypnosis itself has been around in different names for thousands of years. It goes back to like the Egyptian and Greek sleep temples, where they went in and to these temples, and people will talk to them, and they go into a sleep, and they come back and feel better, and all those things. And then we had Mesmer back in the 1700s doing all these sort of like stage hypnosis, I guess, almost what it would be like today, curing people. But I got taken on by the fledgling psychiatry movement. Then Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, they were kind of, all those psychoanalysts started off in utilizing hypnosis. And then they started to spun off their own theories. One of the theories about Freud was that he was a lousy hypnotist, and that's why he spun off psychoanalysis. So, but anyway, so it's been around for a long time, and it kind of worked its way. It was sort of kind of more of a mainstay of therapy up until maybe the 50s. I don't know if you ever watched these old movies where they showed the psychiatrist that comes in and does hypnosis and all those. So, and then it kind of faded. Then it just kind of faded off the scene of psychology for kind of a long time. Actually, the people that did keep it going were stage hypnotists, and they're the ones that developed most of the hypnotic approaches and ideas and the way that we work. So, it's kind of come back. I mean, for those of us that utilize hypnosis, we're kind of bringing it back. So, am I alternative or am I traditional? Am I really just kind of old-fashioned and bringing back old materials and old ideas back into things? But in terms of what's out there, people kind of still look at hypnosis as kind of woo-woo or something, but it's really not. And it's actually provides an important clue into theories about ourselves. So anyway, that's kind of about me. I've kind of gone through the gamut of mental health. I've been kind of working closely with psychiatry in the past, medications and doctors and all those sorts of things. And but I really found that what's lacking is people's just common education, understanding about how we work and what we can do to control our mental health. And I really kind of look at people, or I tend to try and simplify everything in my life as much as possible. And when you think about it, most of what we need to know about anything can be summed up in a fairly small amount of literature. If you want to learn to do gardening, if you read about 3 gardening books, you'll come up with about 80% of what you're going to ever need to know about gardening. And most people can plant a competent garden having read a few gardening books. But it's only when we get into those sort of like specialty infestations and plant diseases and things like that that we have to dig out more information, or we're going to go get an expert or something to help us with that particular issue. But basically, we can be competent gardeners with reading a couple books. The same with, you can figure out how to do house wiring or renovations by reading a couple books and following the instructions. And most people can do basic house maintenance, basic repairs, build rec rooms and things like that by reading books, watching some videos. So we can know most of it. Now, we don't know all of it. So we call in the experts if we want to be more efficient, or if we need specialty work done. And that's when we kind of bring people in. So there's always room for the experts. But for most of the things, we can kind of have a competent framework for what we need to know about ourselves by having a fairly kind of concise um, area of knowledge. And so that's kind of what I want to bring out to people, is to empower people to know more about themselves and take better control of their own um, mental health and situation, their um, just their well-being, and to understand themselves. And a lot of people come to me, and I'm going through some of the same things with a lot of people, because a lot of the same things apply to a lot of people. So I go by the 80-20 rule a lot, that 80% of the stuff, everything you have, but most of what you have to offer applies to 80% of the population. About 20% doesn't really quite fit with that, and needs a more specialty approach. And so this little talk, and sorry if I'm rambling, is really kind of the start of me starting to engage with people about providing that education, providing a dialogue. So I'm hoping that people will kind of ask questions here as we go, and give me ideas for further talks, because I'm not sure what it is people themselves want or would like, or what would be beneficial. So this is a way to kind of move outside the frame of the regular one-to-one therapy. And disclaimer here that I'm not providing therapy right now. This is for entertainment purposes only, or educational purposes only. So this is not formal therapy. This is just telling you stuff and giving you information. But a lot of what I do is help people understand themselves even in therapeutic work. So I'm trying to kind of go outside the box of the one-to-one therapy, and because therapy has its limits. I mean, it's great when you can take it, but some people can't afford it, or they have benefit coverage but it only goes so far, and it's great for a while, and then they need to come back and get some further assistance. So there's got to be a better way. And there's got to be a way that people can kind of get more regular support and regular ongoing. So I wanted to make myself available to answer questions and explore topics that are of interest to you. The one thing that I wanted to talk about today, and I guess I should kind of monitor my time too, because I tend to ramble, if you haven't noticed. So I always think, I've been asked to do like an hour talking. Oh my God, how am I going to fill an hour? What am I going to talk about for an hour? And then at, come an hour on the talk, people are like dragging me off the stage with a hook. It's like, oh, I've got this other thing to say. But so I've got to kind of control myself here and monitor that I do this kind of in a concise way. I'm aiming for about 20 to 30 minutes on these talks. And I'm aiming to have them about 2 weeks apart. I haven't sort of finalized a regular day. It's probably either going to be a Sunday or Monday, probably a Monday, where I would offer these about every 2 weeks, and just be available to speak on a topic. Today's topic is really, because it is New Year's, it is about intentionality, as I started to talk about at the beginning. And so if we want to change anything, so if we're talking about our mental health, we have to have an intention to do something about it, for it to be better. So that's the step one in something. In anything that you want to do, you have to kind of make a decision. You have to decide that you got to do something about it. So if you have an anxiety problem, if you have depression, whatever it is, you first have to have an intention to say, I got to change this. I got to do something different. And what steps am I going to take to do that? One of the things that I'm going to be getting into is that a lot of what we are is habits. Like we are creatures of habits. We do things and think things in the same way over and over again. And we repeat the same sorts of feeling experiences as well. So if you look at the things that you struggle with on any kind of mental health capacity, you'll notice that you keep experiencing the same kinds of issues over and over. Anxiety happens over and over and over again. Depression happens over and over and over again. It comes and goes back. Certain things trigger it. And so we have a pattern of how we experience the world. If we have an addiction, it's a recurring pattern. use our addiction, we feel better, kind of, and then we kind of go back to normal and we kind of are all right for a bit, and then we need that thing again and it comes back. So a lot of these are repeating patterns. And what's one of the things I've learned over the years in observing mostly and also reading is that people repeat their patterns over and over again. You know, most of what we do, and if you don't believe it, ask your spouse or significant others if they can predict what you're like and what you do and your habits. You know, they can sometimes predict down to the thing that you're going to, you know, sit in a certain way, you're going to do the pick up this thing, and you're going to talk in a certain way, go to a party, you're going to say the same old stories, you know, all those sorts of things. And we don't realize how much repetitiveness is in our lives. And our mental health habits are repetitive as well. Our dysfunctional mental health are repetitive. And we need to start to break those patterns, those repetitions. And so one of the ways that we need to do that is by one, setting an intention that we need to decide that we need to change something. And so, and the way we go about changing things is that we have to do things systematically and routinely. And so, and we also need to know if we are changing something, what are we changing it to? Because most of when we try to change something about ourselves, it's like to stop doing X, you know, stop being anxious, stop drinking, you know, stop getting angry. And so we have this thing about stop doing this thing, but our brains really aren't set up very well to respond very well to just stopping doing stuff. It needs to know, well, what am I going to do instead? You need a replacement behavior for that thing that you don't want. So if you don't want to be anxious, you have to have an idea of what do you want to be instead. If you don't want to be anxious, then well, what are you going to be instead of that? If you don't want to be depressed, what are you going to be instead of being depressed? So you have to think, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to, how do I want to think? How do I want to feel instead of that thing? And because we habitually bring ourselves into those states, we need to introduce a new state or new target state and start to incorporate that into a routine of our lives. So the more something becomes a routine, the more it becomes part of us. And so we need a starting point. We need to start, a rule of sort of improving your mental health is to figure out to do something different and incorporate that in a new way. And so those of you who have worked for me before, I've probably heard me harping on about a wellness program, that we need to develop a personal wellness program. And a personal wellness program is something that we do on a daily or very routine basis that are good for us, that induce the kinds of states that we want, mostly in the terms of, especially in terms of anxiety, and depression is related. There are nervous systems issues, and we need to calm and soothe the nervous system. So we engage in activities aimed at calming, soothing the nervous system. And one of the recommended activities is breathing exercise. Regular breathing exercises done consistently every day for at least 3 times a day can make a huge difference in anxiety, because you're calming, soothing your nervous system. So you're actually creating an opposite state to what the physiological state of anxiety is. When you calm and soothe the nervous system, you're not allowing yourself to stay in the anxiety state. So we need to shift out of it. So we need to start doing new things. If there's that saying, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, if you keep doing the same thing that you've always done, you're always going to get what you always got. So we need new ways of approaching our lives. We need new ways of thinking. Our thinking and thought patterns are habits, habitual thought patterns. We think and worry about the same things over and over again. And one of the things about getting control of our mental health is to realize that we can actually get control of our thoughts and get control of our feeling states. We can consciously direct those things. And going back to some of the old psychoanalytical theories, one of my heroes, Carl Jung, who, well, if you don't know who Carl Jung is, look him up. But he's an old psychoanalyst contemporary with Freud, but he kind of had an expanded theory of unconscious, and he introduced the theme of collective unconscious and archetypes and that. He said that one of the goals of therapy, the primary goal of therapy, or of just of our own personal growth, is to become conscious, to make the things that are unconscious conscious. We have to create awareness of ourselves. We have to understand that we're in these patterns and that we are looping over and over again. And once we understand that, then we have the ability to intervene in that and change it. And so this here today is an example of me doing that, because I've been talking about, oh, I got to get out there and talk to people and expand my horizons and put something more out into a public nature, into the kind of mainstream, out into the thought stream out there, rather than just seeing people one-to-one. I've been humming and hawing about this probably for a year or more. And finally I thought, I just have to do this. I just have to commit and set a time and just do it. And so New Year's seemed like a good time. So I'm doing it. And now by setting it as a routine, it's going to be established as a new way of me of doing it. I'm getting out of my comfort zone, because anything that you do over a period of time, you get comfortable with it. So I'm comfortable with seeing clients on a one-to-one basis in my office. I know how to do that a lot, but you also need to keep things fresh. And so by doing something new, you go outside of your comfort zone, and that's how you grow. You can't stay in a comfort zone. If your motivation is to stay comfortable, then that's not going to take us very far. And all of our habits, all of our fear-driven behaviors are about staying safe. It's about, don't change this, don't do anything different, because you need to stay right here where it's nice and safe. Because if you stick out there, your head out there, it's going to get hurt. So you don't go out there, just stay in your own little circuit. But that creates its own set of problems. We need to expand and take conscious control of our expansion. And so my challenge here for you today is to start to initiate change by adopting one thing. Find one new thing that you can, a positive thing, that you can incorporate into your life on a daily basis or on a very regular basis that is different than you've been doing. And it could be anything. It could be, I suggested breathing. If you have anxiety problems, I say that's the best thing you can do. That the single most important thing is to engage in regular, consistent breathing exercises. This becomes like a fitness program. Like if we want to improve our physical fitness, we get involved in a physical fitness program. We have to exercise like every day or 5 days a week or whatever it is. And you have to exercise sufficiently. You can't just go like 2 minutes. You have to go like half an hour or something, and you don't see results immediately. It's a conditioning process over time. We know that about our physical wellness, our physical well-being. Same with eating pattern. If you're changing eating pattern, if you just eat healthy one day, it's not going to change how you feel much. But if you consistently eat differently and consistently eat good food, you're going to start to notice a difference over time. You start to exercise every day, you're going to start to notice that over time. And the same with our mental wellness. You start incorporating something positive and calming, soothing to the nervous system. You're not going to notice it immediately, but over time, that's when you notice it. So the challenge would be, stop doing the same old things and start doing something new. Think of something, could be a meditation practice. I'm going to meditate every day for 10 minutes. I'm going to even exercise, start to exercise, start to eat right, whatever. Start to read, start to create some time for myself, start to create some time for my significant other or my kids or whoever it is. I'm going to go out for a walk every day. I'm going to take the dog for a walk every day. One simple thing, but commit to it. Commit to it, something that you are deselecting it because you're going to get a specific benefit that you want out of it. It's going to create a positive impact in your life. So pick one thing and commit to it and see how that affects you. And that can be a beginning of a wellness plan, is that you start a wellness plan as a deliberate program that you put together yourself, like a fitness program, only it's for your mental wellness. And you start to do those things that create a better state, a better frame of mind. It can be Another thing would be an internal thing. I'm going to notice every time I'm thinking a negative thought, stop it and think positively about that. I'm going to notice my negative thinking. I'm going to stop the negative thinking. That can be about, do that consistently. You'd be amazed at how powerful that can be. You know, flip the negative thinking into a positive. Okay, so I'm yapping away here, and I'm wondering if anybody has any questions or anything that they would, any comments that they make about any, does any of this make sense? Is any of this, do you have any questions about any of this, or for future of these little broadcasts, if there's any other ideas or things that you'd like me to expand on? So we're talking about breaking our old habits, breaking our old cycles. And at the new year, why not? This is a good time. Clean slate, fresh start, new year, right? Everybody makes the resolutions. I don't really like the resolutions, but I do like the idea of setting new intentions. And we can set them at a new year. We can set an intention at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the month, the beginning of the day. And if you set a good intention for how your day is going to be, it's going to change the outcome of your day. So let me see if there's anything. I'm not sure if I'm seeing. I'm only seeing 4 little comments on here. So, okay. Sorry about this. I'm a novice at this stuff, so I'm going to be looking at it. Well, you wish it was louder. Okay, it might be late in the game, but see if this works. Okay, headset. Sorry about this. Is that any better? Can people hear me better? Can you? Okay, can you hear this? Sometimes I know there's a bit of a delay on some of this. No, I'm not seeing in the comments, so I'm not sure if you're hearing me. The headset to see if that did anything with the sound. Is that doing anything? Oh, yes, it's clearer. I suppose that was. Okay. Put it back in. Oh, yes, it's clear. One comment. These are kind of the. Oh, here they are. Just keep talking, please. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So where am I at? Oh, I'm at the half-hour mark already. I'm okay to answer any questions. I'm not in a rush, but I did sort of say I'd give you kind of a time frame about what I'd be doing. Is this something that you'd be interested in getting more of joining this sort of thing every now and again? I'm thinking about maybe every 2 weeks at this point, maybe every week at some point. But any questions, comments, suggestions about this forum, about the topic for today? I'd be happy to hear anything you have to say. Time for tea. I hope you join me. I hope you brought your tea. So I really do have tea with people that come into my office. So there's a really interesting documentary I saw on the documentary channel. Well, it was recorded last night, but it was about tea. And it was a Canadian guy actually, and went to the sources of tea in China, very original sources of tea in China, and sort of explored all these tea routes that went up to Tibet and into the Himalayas, and it was sort of quite fascinating. Anyway, just a comment on tea. Okay, so what am I seeing? Okay. All right, so you can also put in comments afterwards. If anybody has any thoughts or comments after we're done, you can still enter them in and I can review them. So I am interested in any other sort of topics or suggestions. This was just my sort of initial little foray into this. Some of my thinking about how mental health works. I'll be expanding on that, but I just wanted to get out there that idea of the fact that we're a bunch of, if you think about it, even our personality is kind of a habit. Who we are, who we present, we're kind of habitually, our personality is just kind of a big habit. So a lot of us are habits that have become consolidated over time, and we learn things, and we actually learn anxiety. Our nervous systems our nervous systems become habituated to it. My view is that, you know, when we go to a doctor for anxiety or a lot of mental health conditions, the doctor gives you a pill. And what is the pill doing? It's affecting you physiologically, right? Our minds and our bodies are interconnected. When we have anxiety, it's because we're perceiving some sort of threat in our environment. We're perpetually in a fight-flight response. And so we habituate to that over time, so it becomes a normal response. So we're always anxious. If we want to, and that's being driven by the thoughts of why do we perceive something as a threat? It's because we perceive it that way. We see something as a threat, and we have thoughts about it as a threat. And that threat signal goes to our body and says, "Oh my God, you know, something's going on." Adrenaline comes in, and all kinds of things start to, we tense up, and neurotransmitters start to flow, and all these sorts of things, and this pattern kind of develops. So we can either work with that physiologically through medication, or we can work with it physiologically through reconditioning ourselves by calming, soothing the nervous system. So taking up these practices like meditation and yoga and breathing and anything that you can think of that induces wellness on a routine basis is going to soothe that nervous system and start to counteract those things. So I'll expand on that as we go. But I wanted to get in the idea that we're kind of big habit factories, and yeah, our thoughts are habitual, our states of mind are habitual, our feelings are habitual. We can tend to reproduce the same patterns in our lives, and one simple way, basic way to really start to gain control over your mental health is to become aware of those patterns and start to introduce new patterns, introduce positive things on a regular basis, regular routine basis, things that are good for you, things that induce the kind of state that you want, as opposed to the kind of state that you have just unconsciously learned. And so that's really what we're after. That's my challenge to you. Set your intention to identify what you want instead of the thing you got, and then start to introduce a simple thing, one thing on a daily basis that you can experience, that is putting a positive intention to what you want, positive intention into the world, positive thinking, a positive state of being. You know, introduce that into your life and start just one thing at a time, and we start to make positive change. Okay. All right, so getting some positive comments. Thank you very much. And I will see what I can do about the volume as well. I actually have another kind of a program. I have a webinar program called Zoom that used to be able to do live on Facebook as well. And some people aren't on Facebook, so they prefer that kind of thing where you can send out a link and go on there. But there have been some changes to Facebook, and it's not all kind of working quite as well. So I will check into the technicals. Hopefully we can get a better sound situation. I do have another microphone I might be able to plug in to get that working. And so other than that, I will look into those things, and I will send out another notification as to when this next one will be, probably in about 2 weeks. Or as is, I could spontaneously just do them whenever, okay? So thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions, just put them on the Facebook post afterwards. Go ahead and like my Facebook page here. You'll get regular notifications. If you like my stuff, then send your friends to it as well, so they can hopefully benefit as well. So thank you very much for joining me. Happy New Year to you all. Go set your intentions. Start your new year off on a good foot with some positive, incorporating a positive, regular routine thing into your life that is going to change it in a positive way, even in just a very small way. Baby steps. Baby steps is the way to do it. Don't take on this big program. Do a baby steps, one step at a time, and you'll get there. Okay, so thanks very much for joining me. Happy New Year and take care. Bye now.